Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, depende de quando você está nos ouvindo. Bem-vindos a mais uma edição do nosso podcast da Corall, no caminho, gente, explica. E uma edição especial, uma edição que aconteceu por encontros. E hoje eu tenho uma convidada especial aqui comigo. Daqui a pouco a gente vai se apresentar, a Deepa. Ela é indiana e uma pessoa que a gente encontrou no fluxo da vida, maravilhosa. E, bem, sem mais delongas, a Deepa não fala português muito bem, então nós vamos fazer a nossa conversa em inglês e depois vocês vão ter acesso também à tradução. You're very welcome. Thank you for accepting the invitation to talk to us.
Sure, certo.
And let me try to tell a story about how we met and what happened in our conversations. Let me explain a bit about the context, which I think it will be very helpful for you guys to hear Deepa's stories that are wonderful. And as you may know, we just published a survey about trust. We measured from the company's perspectives how they feel and live trust in their day-to-day life. So generally speaking, within the company, the level of trust is high. It's between 70 and 90%, which is good because they have a social tissue to exchange information and so forth. Mm-hmm. But when they look at the outside, society, the press, the social media, the government, the judiciary power, wow, the levels of trust went downwards to levels of 5%, 10%, which is very worrisome, I guess. At least I really didn't sleep for 2 days after these things. But then we went to a spiritual retreat about a month ago, and all of a sudden we met Deepa, and she started to tell us her stories, and I got, what is going on here? It's actually the things that, from a personal perspective, I think would help people to live a better life and connect better with other people. So this is a context, and Deepa kindly accepted our request to share her stories.
Sure.
So thank you again. Maybe to start, could you present yourself?
Yeah. I'm from India, and I've been experimenting with different ways of living, different ways of traveling, exploring different kind of capital, apart from money, for the last more than a decade now. And one of these experiments led to cycling from north to south India during the pandemic, and on without money, without phone, without tent, without a watch, without a compass, without a map, with just me, another friend on a cycle, and with some things, and we left. So yeah, imagine cycling from Bahia to Sao Paulo like this, and during the pandemic, just after the first lockdown and just before the second lockdown. So, and during this, and I've done these experiments before, walking without phone and money, cycling without phone and money, but I've never done it for so long, and I've not done it in a situation which is already so tight, where people are not talking to each other, where nobody's touching each other, and an experiment during these times is what we felt we would like to do. So the two of us went, and we did 2,400 kilometers over a span of 61 days. And we were fed and had a roof every night without the problems of the pandemic. The minute we left the city, the pandemic was somehow left behind. And we never slept hungry. So that says a lot about people and how they trust, and how probably when people ask me, why do people feed you? What happened? Because they are equally scared and of the pandemic and the virus, and they didn't feel like that with you. So I always feel that vulnerability brings trust. When we are vulnerable, the other is compelled to trust us. And when we say, I need help, or can you offer me a meal, we open a portal into the other person's heart and go directly to the person who lives in the body. And we go through these layers of fear and anxiety. We cross it because the other person feels that, wow, the other person is so vulnerable, is needs my help. Like, I am the one the person has come to. So that changes interaction, and I want to talk about that more when I speak about my experience in Brazil.
Right.
So the cycling trip took me to a community in India called Auroville, which is now 54 years old. The community is already past 50 years, and I lived there for 2 years without any phone and money, just with people exchanging skills for food and board and love and care and friendship. And I lived in over 9 houses in the 2 years, and it was really so easy. And I thought, I had a feeling after 2 years that what if I do this in another country? And I wrote a small proposal to a global organization, and I told them that I would like to do it in another country, and can you support me just to get there, and with more information or whatever you can. And they said, sure, we will give you $1,200, which is just your ticket to get in, your health insurance and visa. And in the beginning, we will connect you to 3 or 4 contacts. So you are protected for 3 months.
You're right.
And then you play the game. So I said, okay. And they said only to Brazil.
Oh, they said
They
specifically
chose.
to Brazil.
Yeah, I didn't get to choose. So Brazil called me. I didn't. Yeah, it was it. And now, as I finished, I'm finishing 10 months in Brazil. I know why Brazil called me. Yeah, sure. It's
and no Portuguese. You didn't speak any Portuguese in the beginning.
No. When I came the first night, I spoke Ola. Now I speak much more, at least like 100 words, but not enough for an interview. So yeah, I knew nothing. I didn't, and also I don't Google anything. So I knew nothing about Brazil, the map, the politics, nothing.
Wow.
The people, the food, the currency, the weather. I came from 48 degrees to straight to, I think, 10 degrees.
10, yeah.
Because I came in July last year.
Right.
So they gave me the grant. I received the $1,200, and it was spent in one go just to come to Brazil. And for 3 months, I was protected. I moved from house to house, project to project, and everything was taken care of. But in October mid, the protection was over. And then I had to sit again in the space of intention and manifestation, vibrationally attracting what you need. And slowly the invitations started coming, and so far I've lived in 27 houses, and I hardly have any money on me, and the invitations just come, and that's how I'm here also. So yeah.
It's amazing. So you are living proof that we can believe in people, right?
Sure. Who else? Because we believe, who else? I mean, for me, when people say, oh, on these journeys which are so spiritual, have you met God? And I said, all the time, because God or the Spirit or Jesus or whatever name that you want to use will not appear in the form we have imagined it to appear.
Yeah.
It's going to appear in the form of people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if when I'm, for example, I was in Bahia and I was in a concert, and during the interval of the concert, there was a woman sitting next to me, and she asked me, "Where are you from?" and all this. So I told the whole story, and she said, "Okay, so when is your last day in this house?" I said, "Tonight is my last day." And she said, "Tomorrow you have to leave?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "So where do you move?" I said, "I don't know. I don't have an invitation." And she said, "So where will you go in the morning?" And I said, "Well, it's 8 p.m. right now, and till 8 a.m. it's 12 hours for the universe to show. And it's a lot of time." And she was really, I think, shocked when I said this. And she said, "If nothing comes, what would you do?" And I said, "Well, I have a house offered to me in Sao Paulo, and then I will just stand on the street and corona my way to Sao Paulo in 3-4 days, and it's okay."
Uh-huh.
And she was really shocked. Anyway, the interval got over, the concert started, and after the concert finished, the woman said, "You know what? I just spoke to my husband, and I feel you can stay with us for one night. You know, it'll cover you." I said, "Great." So she picked me up the next day, and I stayed with them for a night. And again, it's 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And she says, "Where will you go tomorrow?" I said, I don't know. It's the same plan B. And she said, "Okay, you can stay with us one more night. 2 nights." I said, "Great, thank you." And again, it is 8 p.m. No, it's 8 p.m. will happen every day. So then she comes to me and she says, I'm living in the house for 2 days, and I live in the house like it's my house. I will start
Yes.
cleaning, cooking, feeding the
Yes,
dog, and wear their clothes and do the dishes, and just how you live together.
Yes, yes.
So the next day she said, "We feel you're okay, so you can stay here for longer." And then I lived with them for a long time. Yeah. From nothing to everything,
Yes.
from not knowing to trusting,
Yes.
this is the journey that we have to do within ourselves and then with people.
Yes, and when people get in touch with it, it kind of open up new possibilities, right? She might have feel that during her own journey, right?
Sure. It's trust for me. It's a very tricky thing. It can't be seen. It's only felt, and you can feel it in a person when you look at them, and also how they behave around you.
Yeah.
And when I ask people to do an exercise very often, and I ask them to make a list of people you respect, and then make a list of people you trust. The trust list is so much shorter than the people we respect.
Mm-hmm.
It is the name on the list is like you can count on your fingers how many people, if you do it right now, how many people you trust, you can count on your fingers. So we have to ask ourselves, what makes us trust people? Usually it is the ability to show up. It is the ability that when I say, "Hey, I need help," these people will show up when I will say I need help.
Yes.
And my experiment is to replicate this feeling with everybody I meet every day. And I want to share this incident which we talked in the car, that only a week back I was walking from somebody's birthday party. I was walking back home alone, maybe at 8 p.m. And I had a feeling, and I just turned right towards a very big Italian restaurant. And I went to the Italian restaurant and I asked if the owner is there. And he said, "No, the owner is not here." And in my very broken Portuguese, he understood what I was saying, and he spoke little English, so we could talk. And then I asked him that, "Can I speak to the head waiter?" And he said, "Head manager." And he said, "Yeah, I'm the maître d'. You can talk to me." So I explained to him in my very extremely childish Portuguese that I'm doing this experiment, and I ask people to support me and to join this experiment of surrender and trust and compassion and gratitude and generosity. And tonight I somehow have come to you, and I want to ask you if you would like to offer me a meal. And without batting an eyelid, he said, "Sure, come in." And I thought maybe he has not understood because it's really fast. He said yes. So I quickly took out my phone. I have my first smartphone in Brazil. And I used the translator and I wrote it. And he said, "Yeah, I understood. Sure, come." And I sat down and he offered me a menu and I said, no, it's I don't want to see the menu. I want to, you feed me from your heart. Give me what you would like to give me. Just remember, I'm a vegetarian. That's all. So he said, okay, no problem. And then he offered me a juice and tomato ravioli and a coffee. And with a lot of love, it was not like a pity meal or a sympathy meal or he wanted to get rid of me. And he said, take your time and have a good meal. And he sat with me. We had a chat and then I walked back home after the meal. And when my host came home some hours after, I told her that, this is what happened to me. And she said, really, this does not happen in Sao Paulo. She could not believe it, and not many people do.
It's not very common.
But it did. It happened to me, and only a week back. And I can narrate 1,000 stories like this which keep happening to me. And all these strangers are inviting me to stay in their house. Asking for a meal on the road is of course is being vulnerable. But for strangers to say, hey, come live with us in our house, because when you live together, it's a totally different experience. You know so much more about the person than you can know about them while you have a meal.
Yes.
So, and I've been living with so many strangers, all Brazilians, and
I'm very curious. Could you share with us one of these stories, or how they live, what you found when you met them in their houses, and also maybe what you've learned from Brazil compared to India?
Yeah, I feel the more I travel, I realize how similar we are. And especially Brazilians and Indians. We are so far away, but we are so similar. The way we react to situations, the way we react to people, it's a very warm culture, just like the Indian culture. People hug. This is the only country in the world where my hugs can be matched. Yeah. And we
are hugging people.
Yeah, so is India. And Brazilians like to eat, so do we. And the words, I'm amazed at the language. So many words are common between Portuguese and Hindi and Sanskrit. So many. Toalha is tolya in Hindi. Veranda, pagar, padri, cha, kameez. Baldi is balti. Chavi is chabi. Almario, almari. Sabune is sabun. Batata is batata. Ainda from Sanskrit. Bang on. Duvida. Bang on from Sanskrit. So I don't know, maybe somebody has done a study on understanding where is this influence coming from, but we have so many words in common, our habits.
Very interesting. I didn't know of that.
Yeah.
When you first said to me, I got struggled. I mean, there are some roots that are common, but in the day-to-day language, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, like Duvida is from Sanskrit. I mean, who would have known? But
I didn't at all.
Yeah.
And how, when you leave a house, how is that? How people leaves you? How you leave them? How that happens?
Well, all houses are different, and I have connected with some people more than I've connected to others. And in some houses, when I've left, we've all cried and we said, wow, because we don't know when I'm going to go back. I mean, I don't know when I'll come back to Brazil again. And some houses we've shed tears, and some houses we've said, okay, we will try to stay in touch. In some houses, there are 2-3 houses where they don't want to stay in touch. So I've experienced a big platter of emotions.
Right.
And for me, sometimes it's very easy to leave a house, and sometimes it's really difficult to leave a house because no matter how much I feel I am prepared for the unknown, sometimes I fall back into my old patterns of not trusting that what is coming is even better than this,
Uh-huh.
or is the right place to be than
Uh-huh,
this,
uh-huh.
because I have to learn some things.
Uh-huh.
So I have to remind myself to trust in what is coming, because to accept what is coming is the only way to move forward.
Right.
Because I cannot move backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all houses come with the expiration date. There is a deadline, and I have to leave after between 2 weeks to 1 month or 1.5 months. I have to leave. Also, I want to leave to live with somebody new.
Yeah.
And every house reveals to me and also to the host, though they're not here, but they would probably agree that when we are with people, different people tap into different people amongst in us. So I could be one kind of Deepa with you, but when I live with you, another Deepa is tapped into, which cannot be tapped into if we don't live together.
Yeah.
And another you will be tapped into when you live with me,
Yeah.
or when we spend more long, lazy quantity time together.
Right.
And when I notice these other Deepas coming up, it's like, wow, I have so many people in me, and this is also me, and this is also me. For example, in India I never cooked, and I don't like to cook. But in Brazil, after 3-4 months, I cooked in many houses, and I thought, from where is this coming? Like, how? I don't know this. And my mother would say, who is eating your food? And I said, everybody. They like it. They said, wow. She was so surprised. And I cook in many houses now. And
Probably will ask you to cook something
yeah,
for her
sure,
when you come
sure,
back. Yeah.
sure. So for me, every day is a surprise. Like when an agreement is ending in one house, I'm like thinking, okay, I'm asking the universe, okay, where are you sending me? Wow, I know something is coming, but I don't know what. So every 2 weeks to 1 month, I'm adjusting to new people, new ecosystem, new behavior, and new bathrooms, new lock and keys, and new beds. Everything is new. And I live out of 2 bags, and the only way to do this is to trust in yourself that you can get through it, and trust in the process that there is a reason why I have to correct myself. Why Brazil chose me to come to it, and I have to trust that there must be a reason. And when people say, oh, how did you think about this cycling trip, or how did you think about a year in Brazil, because it's too extreme, no? And I said, actually, I didn't think. I'm not thinking. This is not coming from a space of thought. It's coming from another space where the thought has appeared even before I think I have thought the thought. From this space. So even before I know I will turn right to the Italian restaurant, I have turned right. And there is no time to think. You're in this thoughtless space that you're not thinking, why did I turn right? And oh, I'm going to go to this Italian restaurant. And what if you are just doing it? You are the flow, and you are in the flow. And it is not possible to segregate these two aspects.
Right, and the thought is just something that comes up later to
Much
try to explain what happened.
Much later. And in experiments like these, the mind is very slow. But you're operating from a different space, which is working at the speed of light.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic paradox that you didn't think it, but you're doing it. So if I believe in the theory of I think, therefore I am, then this totally, it doesn't match. It doesn't match. And maybe we have to maybe unpack all these concepts of who am I, what am I doing on this planet, and what is the planet, and is it true that what I feel inside reflects my world outside, and is it true that I can change, work on my intention, and therefore let the world which I want to manifest really manifest? And also to ask ourselves, what kind of lives do we want to live? Do we want to live a life of feeling abundant, or do we want to live a life feeling scarce? and or fear, always in fear, living always in anxiety. And even when like people tell me Sao Paulo is so unsafe, don't go out alone, and I said, from me, I mean, I never felt unsafe. And I've walked through many roads in Sao Paulo. And every time I stop to ask some stranger for directions, they are always more than helpful. And some people even say, we will walk you home because Sao Paulo is very unsafe. So, yeah, and it's amazing the amount of people who have helped me. I mean, I've yet to count the amount of people who have helped me in these last 10 months surviving in Brazil like this, and not just surviving, abundantly living. I'm not surviving at all. And the amount of people who have put together their effort to send me to Brazil, energetically, especially my parents, my partner, my friends, and all this big ecosystem. And when I was leaving India, my mother said, you don't know anybody in Brazil. In India, it's different. You know the language, you know the food, you know the culture. You can talk, you can get your way. But in Brazil, you know nothing. Who is going to feed you? Who is going to invite you to their house? You know, you're going to a foreign land and you're not realizing the gravity of these facts. And she was really very, like a mother, really worried.
Dramatic.
Very dramatic, like Brazilians. Very dramatic,
yes.
very. It was like a novella. And I told her that if you want me to be fed, you have to feed somebody. And it's going to come to me through the circle of gift, because it's circular. The energy is circular. We're living in a spiral. Everything is circular.
Yes.
So there is no way that when we give, we do not receive. It's not possible.
Yeah, sometimes we receive so much more, right?
Yeah. Always so much more. The trees are giving you oxygen all the time. They're never asking you how much carbon dioxide did you give me today.
Yes.
And the universe is not saying, oh, today you have been not so good and you didn't stick to your diet, so tomorrow I will not give you 24 hours.
Yeah.
This is not happening. There is abundance in universe.
Yes, yes. And how do you think people, did anybody told you when you are leaving them how they changed or what changed on them after the experience?
Yeah. I wish some of them were here. Maybe we do another program with all my hosts together and you can hear their stories and their transformation, because a lot happens. The journey between them they're listening to my story in Brazil and they're saying, okay, come to us. This journey, I don't know it in words yet.
Yes.
But maybe in glimpses, what I've heard when people say that we can be more trusting, we can be more open, because we see that we think in our heads, we have created a world that everybody is out there to get me. Everybody is there to steal from me and to abuse me or to cause me harm.
Yeah.
But it's only a story.
Yeah.
But it's not true. Because because I heard in one house, they said if for 1 second, if we believe nothing on social media, on WhatsApp and all these other mediums, and if we are just in this moment looking at the interaction we are having with a stranger from a foreign land, not even from Brazil, they said it is none of the thing we read in the newspaper is true.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not. It's maybe a very small part of our life, but sadly we have energized it so much that it looks like the big part of our life. And therefore, I feel all the media has to also somehow reflect and go through a big transformation to not magnify what is 0.1%, but also to talk about the other things, you know, like nobody's bombing us today.
Yeah, you are talking about this right now, and I was thinking, because the survey showed that almost 60% of people believe in the future. So they have trust in the future, right? So maybe they have, had this insight already, because they don't trust social medias, they don't trust the government. Maybe they are more aware about the present, about the people they are facing, and that they really find trustness in people. Do you think?
I feel things are only getting better. And also, we live on hope, it's our biggest thing inside us. We know it. And we don't have to be spiritual to be hopeful, because we are
Yes.
hopeful by default.
Yes.
And that's why we are still bringing children in this world. We're still helping each other. We are protecting. We are trying to do what we can for the climate. So many things we are trying to do. And this interview also is part of this hopeful effort towards something which is better. But for me I feel my past shows me my present, and my present shows me my future. So I feel, if I feel my present is okay, I also feel my future is okay. And also, to unpack this world of these words, past, present, and future, we have to unpack it. I mean, they exist, but are we always operating from this space where they exist, or do we also have access to a space where they don't exist? So yeah.
That's a good way of actually being more present, right? Maybe they're just mind concepts.
Sure. And and I'm not saying that we don't have to plan for the future or be like this. So much planning went into
Yes.
organizing this talk, right? The studio and so many people sitting around who helped. So I'm not saying to be disorganized and to be flaky and not to show up on time. I'm not saying that, but to also remember that you can be organized, but there has to be room to accept the cosmic chaos. And cosmic chaos does not work in time. It does not work in past, present, future. It
Yeah.
works in the now.
Yeah.
In the millisecond, it's happening.
Yeah. Wow. I was wondering here if I could do something like you, do the same experiment. And maybe I'm doing something like that
Sure.
when I find my day-to-day people in my job, in my neighborhood, and so forth. So that's why I started to recognize that maybe when I'm open to the present and the other people, the other human being that is there, it's already happening. And that gives me a glimpse of hope for the future, because we can do that to change our surroundings, and also hopefully that will, have a ripple effect in other people as well.
We have to remember that the first step is always to point the finger inwards. For anything,
Yeah.
for any action, for any movement,
Yeah.
it has to be pointed inwards. And to remember that there is quantum effects
Right.
when we bring a change inside us or in our surroundings or
Yeah.
in our lives. It has a ripple effect we cannot even calculate. Not even quantum physics can calculate.
Yeah.
So we have to remember everything you are thinking, feeling is energy being dispersed, and it is having an impact somewhere. So when you sit in peace, when you sit in trust, when you sit in compassion, in gratitude, in generosity, in all these many forms of capital, then it has a big vibrational effect. You may not be able to see it, and you will probably never know it, but it does.
That's inspiring. That's
Yeah.
inspiring. And I kind of feel that it happens all the time. It happens all the time. Tell me a bit more about. There are some people you haven't seen the news or the the social media here in Brazil, as I understand.
But I'm aware
Are you aware?
because it comes through people, no? The people are my social media. Yeah. It comes through them. The people network is the strongest.
Right.
Right.
And what would you tell to somebody as a friend in order to understand this environment and how to act and what to do? It's not advice, but just sharing your.
Yeah. How I see it, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the environment, the social media / political / environment, environment, yeah, environmental condition.
Uh-huh.
It's the same in India. We are going through the same polarities
Uh-huh.
in all aspects. And how I see it is that I would do what I have to do. For example, I live a slow life and I don't have a very busy day, and I live very frugally. I haven't bought things in 10 years. If I need something, I would ask somebody because people are, because all houses are flooded with things and things they don't use. So and I live a zero waste lifestyle. I hardly create any waste. And for example, when I took the flight from India to Sao Paulo, which was my first flight in 5 years, because I don't fly in India. My first 3 months were spent in agroforestry projects to plant a number of trees to even out my carbon footprint. So you can do all these things to satisfy yourself, to say, okay, I'm doing what I can to do, but I also remember the big picture. I know that I am in the play of the cosmos. We call it Leela in India. The play of the cosmos, and where nothing matters. Nothing matters, like I requested you to bring me back-to-back prints, but if they're not back-to-back, it doesn't change anything between you and I. I'm not going to be angry, and I'm not going to say, wow, what a poor job done, and I wrote to him so clearly. It doesn't change anything, because it doesn't matter in the universe, in where the picture is being played. For me, I know I'm being played, and knowing that free will and destiny is a paradox. It exists together. It's not in polarity. And when I remember this, all these difficult human situations we are going through, it doesn't feel so heavy to me. I mean, I would still vote for a left-wing party. I would do all these things. But I'm not attached to the doing so much than to the remembering that I'm a spirit in this body having a human experience, and this is just one of the lives amongst the many I have lived, and I don't know how many more to come. And if there are more, no problem. We will play the game in the matrix, and if there is none, no problem. Then you help the other from the other side. So it doesn't matter in the universal design of things.
You're right. So it's a way of living in this flow, but living.
Sure.
Living well, living with your heart, living with your knowledge, living with your contacts and exchanges. And you tapped something about capitalism, right? And I know that Auroville has it's an experiment with, I don't know how many people and how long.
54 years, 6,000 people
6,000.
6,000 people now, 54 years. It started with maybe 10 people, and now with nothing. It was the first reforestation project in the world, and there was nothing. A barren land converted into a lush green forest now. And it's also going through its own turbulence, because Auroville is it's not like it's a bubble, but it's deeply affected by what happens in the world politically, environmentally. And it's going through its own, growth curve. Just like Brazil and the rest of the India. So,
but there you don't own things, or tell us a bit about the experience of living this different way of living, right?
Sure. So there are many ways of living in Auroville, and nobody owns the land, one. Nobody owns the house. They kind of live there. If they have a house, they live there till they are alive. And when they die, the house is not automatically passed on to the children, unlike in other societies. So the idea of ownership is less and less. The focus on ownership is in less, and the sharing and collective being is more. For example, we have a free store where you can just go and pick up clothes. So people are bringing in clothes, and so hardly people are not buying so many clothes. So if you want, you can live this life. Of course, you can live the life of a capitalist. You can buy and do all those things that you do in the other world. But living in Auroville or any other similar community invites you to look at another way of life, where you are connected to the soil, you grow your food. When you eat your food, you know who has grown your food. And they're all eating with you. So there is a big connect, and because you have to see each other every day, conflict is handled very differently in Orwell. Usually
Yeah.
in life, if we have a fight, we never have to meet the person. We'll probably never cross the person
Uh-huh.
in our path.
Yeah,
But in
yeah.
Orwell, you see everybody 2-3 times a day because the
Yeah.
whole village is interlinked. So you are more careful, and you try to handle conflicts in a way where you can still look each other in the eye and still
Yeah.
sit together to have a meal. And I'm not saying it's an ideal scenario, it's the happiest place on the world, but
Yes.
it invites you to experiment. It invites you to, you can live on exchange, you can volunteer through your life, you can do many things, and you can be who you are. We have so many ways to express who you want to be in Orwell, which doesn't happen in some other societies. Like
Right.
in 7 days, I am from a gardener to a therapist to a listener to the door opener in the sound bath to somebody who manages the zero waste in the community, one of the team members. I do dishes at the solar kitchen on Thursdays. And another garden I'm part of, and I work with the alternate currency team. So every day I do something else which is not connected, and every day I'm exploring a new me, and different aspects of my brain are getting accessed, and I can be so many different people, and I don't have to do the same thing because
I think it's amazing because firstly, it's alive, it's going on, it's growing, right?
Right.
And I guess it's a very good inspiration for maybe another ways of living that people are searching for, because I think there is a movement in the whole world right now, right?
Sure.
How to be happy in community, exchange things, and respecting the planet and other people and so forth. So it's very good that we have already a lot of these experiments going on and being very successful.
Sure. And one doesn't need to live, you don't need to come to Orwell to experience it. You can create your own sharing, exchanging, being communities where you are. Not the whole world has to move to Orwell or to another. It's not feasible.
Yeah.
But you can create it wherever you are. And therefore, I invite people all the time to reflect and to see if they would like to experiment at least with some months, if not many years of their life, to live the life they really want to live. And to give themselves the permission to do it for some months.
Right.
Because
do you think it's possible to live like that within a company, your traditional company and so forth? What do you think?
I feel like I have some, like we can bring some gentle ideas. We don't have to change the whole design of it. But we can start with some very simple experiments. For example, one day, like for example, you can have a corner or a room which is like the gratitude room, where everybody keeps putting things they want to gift away, and even you can have skills people want to share, and they leave their numbers. For example, I love to do puppet shows, and I would like to do for you and your children as a gift. So you can create this atmosphere of more sharing. Basically, how to design gratitude, generosity, asking and receiving in our daily lives, and we can design this, and it's possible to design it in companies, in institutions, in schools. It's totally, and slowly you will see that the top-down hierarchy will slowly shift.
Right. That's a very good experiment. I'm very curious if any of you guys would accept this offer.
And so many more, and we can talk about it offline or with somebody else. But just so many things one can do in the existing environment, which makes it more humane, which makes it more accessible, which builds more trust.
And hopefully this can go spread through the companies, to clients, to their relationships with society and so forth. That's a good way, because it's based on you, right?
Yeah.
And there is no
Yeah.
rule in companies in general that you cannot be
You
generous.
can do whatever you like.
Yeah, that's
You
very
can do
good.
whatever you like. And the more people talk to each other, the more trust builds. Because my whole experiment in India, in India and in Brazil, is all on talking to people. I didn't text that Italian restaurant manager. I didn't write on some WhatsApp, which I don't even have. And it's all going and talking and looking at them and looking into their eyes and
Right.
accessing the window to their soul.
Yeah.
Because they look at you and they say, sure, you can have a meal with me, no problem. This is all happening in eye contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't, we are moving away because we have to move to people from devices.
Yeah.
The
You have to move
devices
from this to
this.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody, smile at somebody, say hi to somebody, ask the person who opens your door what's his name, know his story, have a coffee with him. This is all that will save us. Otherwise, our species is headed to doom, but it doesn't matter.
I have a story as well. I generally, myself and my wife, we walk the dog, Yugi.
Sure.
And it's amazing because in São Paulo, there are a lot of people with dogs and they relate to them. And then people start to talk about one of each other, about them, about... We have a community in our neighborhood, You go 5 blocks in each... And for São Paulo, 5 blocks is a lot of people.
Sure.
And we know everybody, and we say hi when walking the streets and so forth. It's a similar life of the interior of São Paulo or small cities, But it's possible. If you just connect and talk to people, and the dogs, the pets, they help us a lot.
Yeah, you can up the game saying that we are doing a potluck on Sunday in our house and you're invited, bring something to eat. And you invite everybody you meet, and you'll be surprised how that would turn out. Or at another place, you can always up the game.
Yeah. Deepa, we are going to finish. I wouldn't like to finish, but the time that we had is small time.
Because we still live in the phenomenal world. We have the time and deadlines and cutoffs, sure.
Yeah. That's part of the thing.
Sure,
but it rests as an invitation for reflection and trying something different, right? And from the inside out, right?
Sure.
I loved when you brought generosity, openness, presence, connection, and see what happens. Asking and giving. And see what happens.
See.
Thank you very much. Very, very happy of having this conversation and sharing with our friends here.
De nada, imagina.
If you want to say a final words then.
Yeah, I would like to close this conversation by saying these 2 lines which I use in my life, and I share this often. If you want to receive, you just need to ask. And if you want to give, just share it. It's very simple.